In this video, I want to quickly go over the basics of using tools and indicators in Optuma. So learning how to apply them to our charts, how to adjust their properties, how some of them work and the differences. We'll just do this so that you can get started applying your analysis and really get using Optuma and making the most of it. So let's jump straight in. So we've got our chart of NAB opened up already. And to add an indicator, what we can do is come up to the top right corner here and left click on the plus sign, add indicator. When we do that, we get this little panel where we can see some of the recent tools that I've used, as well as all of the different tool groups in Optuma. So let's say I want to add a moving average. What I can do is, well, I've got it right here in my recent, but I know that it's in the averages group. So I can come into averages and then I can search through here and then find, there it is, moving average. And let's left click on that. And now I've got that tool added to my chart. Now this tool has been added with the default settings, but let's change it and make it our own. What we can do is right click on the tool. You want to make sure your mouse is right on the tool and then right click, and we get this window that appears here. So I can see properties, and this is what we want. So properties here, we'll left click on that. And now I've got these different options. So I can see I can edit the tool name. Now this matters when we are saving our tools, but we've got the bar count here. So I could click on these little arrows to do this manually and we can see it moving. But let's just type in 50 and then hit enter on my keyboard and that adjusts. So now we have a 50 period, simple moving average. Let's change that to exponential, and you can see we've got these different options here, but exponential, I want this off of the close, and then it's a little hard to see the green line. So what I'm going to do is increase the line width, and I can just scroll along here, and okay, that works. So let's leave it at 3, and then I can edit the color. So I can click into the line color panel, and then I've got these different options. So let's do a blue one. I want a blue 50 period moving average. There are a couple other settings here that you could play around with. One I will use is show in price scale, and that's going to show our price right here so we can easily see that. Another thing you can do with this window, if it was a little bit in the way, is you can move your mouse right up here till you get the north, south, east, west crosshair, and I can left click and drag and move that away. Say I wanted to really fine tune and it was hiding something, that's how I can move that around. And then to close this panel, I can either left click on the X here, or I can just click anywhere on the chart and it disappears. So now we've added one moving average to our chart, but let's add another one so we can look at the crossovers. This time though, instead of using the add indicator button at the top, I'm gonna right click on the chart background and then select add indicator. And I've got the exact same panel that appeared in the top, this time right here. And because moving average is in our recents, I'm just gonna left click on that. And again, our moving average has been added to our chart. And so I'll right click on this one, go to properties, and let's make this a 25 period. We'll do it exponential on the close again. Now I've also got these options for plot style and line style. Now plot style doesn't really fit this tool. We'll leave it at line, but you've got those options there. But in line style, I could left click on that and then change that so we could make this a dashed line this time. And I'll increase the width again, and then let's make this one red. So now I've got a red dashed 25 period moving average to pair with my blue 50 period moving average. Now that we've added these tools to our chart, I just want to show you something to be aware of when using certain types of indicators. Now, with our exponential moving average, the way that they work is they technically use the full history of price available as they slowly apply a smaller and smaller weight going back in time and a heavier weight to the more recent data. Now, a simple moving average, we don't need to worry about this, but exponential, I just want to show you something to be aware of. So in our settings here, we have data to load, and right now we're loading 5 years of data. Now, if I was to move this to 1 year, we can see our moving averages stay the same, and that's because we're using a fairly short period. If we were using a 200 period moving average, we might need to worry a little more. But if I move this down to a 3-month data to load, what we can see is these values are now very different from what they were before. Now, this is partly because our moving averages are very short, but again, I just want to point out the data to load for some tools is an important feature. So an exponential moving average on a long period, it's something you may want to be aware of. Most of the time, as I said, it does not matter, but just want you to be aware of this so that your analysis is accurate. So we can set this to maximum, and then we do not have to worry about these values. Now, our maximum is the same as it was at 5 years, but that doesn't mean it will always be the case for every single tool. So again, I just want to raise this as something for you to be aware of when applying some of your tools. But moving on, let's go back to what we were doing before. So I'll fix my chart up here, and now let's right click on the chart background again, add indicator, and this time let's add a MACD. So what I'm gonna do, instead of manually searching for it or using my recents, I'm gonna use the search bar up here. So I can left click in here and then start typing. So I can do MACD, and I'm gonna hit enter on my keyboard as it was highlighting the one that I wanted. And now I've got that applied down the bottom of my chart. And again, the same way that we controlled the properties for the moving averages, I can right click on this, go to properties, and then I've got all of those controls. So I can control the moving average periods, the average period, how it's being calculated, as well as controlling the line widths and everything. So if I was to click on the average here, now I can control how that appears. I can make this line thicker if I wanted to. I could also come in and control the oscillator line. I can make that a bit thicker. I could change the color if I wanted to. And really quick, this again is where it becomes helpful to be able to move our window around. So I can left click and move that up, and then go back to my line color, and I can see all of those options. So I can change this to red, and now I've got those two lines a little more visible for me to see. So again, I'll left click off of that to hide that window. And now let's right click again and add indicator, and we'll do volume this time. So VOL, volume. Now that I've got this volume applied, I want to show you that yes, you can apply indicators to the chart, but you can also apply indicators to indicators. If I was to right click in the background of the volume indicator, I can go add indicator, and then let's add a moving average so we can smooth out our volume, and click enter. And now we can see the 5 period simple moving average has been added to our volume calculation. And so again, I could come in, I could make that adjustment so I could see that more clearly, change the color so that I have more contrast, and then I've got that. One final tool type I really quickly want to show you is trend lines, or tools where we have to click to apply them to our charts. So if I right click again, add indicator, I'm going to type TL this time. So we have the option to search by the name, but we also have these short codes. So TL I know is for trend line. It's an easy way to quickly get that tool pulled up. So I'm going to click enter again, and now I get this little pencil icon. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to left click down here, and then I've got this. And then, so that was a left click once, and then I'm going to left click again up here, and now my trend line is drawn. And again, right click, properties, you've got all of the same settings that we can control. Now that that tool's applied, I could also come in and move my mouse right here where we see this little blue dot, and I can left click and drag, and I can move that around if I wanted to have a different trend line or adjust it slightly. I can also left click on the line, and then I can drag it with this mouse and move it. So I can move it with the control points to control the angle, and I can also move it around my chart like this. So you've got all of that flexibility right there. But that's the basics of applying tools to our charts. If you have any questions at all, please contact us by emailing support@optuma.com or visiting our site and submitting a ticket at help.optuma.com. Thank you.